Long gone are the days of playing at crappy frame rates and shit resolutions, long gone are lag spikes and random freezing, and long gone are the red rings of death and the inevitable blue screen that for some reason I always get on Assassin's Creed Odyssey whilst playing on the PlayStation 4. Next gen is here, and with it comes 4 and 8K visuals as well as 60 FPS games, something that PC have had for ages, but us console players don't want to talk about that. And with the newly capable console comes developers who are more than ready to take advantage of the newly found power within the hardware, one such company being Ubisoft. I know, it's a shock to me as well. That's right, so far we have official confirmation that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will play at 60 FPS in 4K on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, of course on PC as well. Note, this is just for these consoles and not the Xbox Series X. That console will only be able to play games at 1440p, which is just a little bit higher than 1080p, not really worth noticing. And this news all comes from Eurogamer Germany, who have said this about the announcement. Now before I go into it, I will say that this was translated on Google Translate from German to English, as I don't speak German, so if it all sounds a bit muddled and jumbled up, I apologise, but I have to quote the source direct. Now according to a current report from Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, released on November 10th, 2020, will not only run in 4K on the PS5, but also with 60 frames per second and full 4K resolution, as you emphasise, which you can expect. The days of checkerboard 4K should be over for now. Although there's always a balance between resolution and frame rates, it is nice to see a game and how well the game will play as in 4K, fully 60 FPS. They also go on to say that Assassin's Creed is to draw further advantage from the PlayStation 5's fast SSD technology to shorten loading times and use the Tempest engine for better sound quality, something I'll be very excited to see when I get my hands on the PlayStation 5 myself. Now one thing that stands out for me is that in some sense of the term, the PC and PlayStation 5 versions of third-party games will no longer be held back as much by the Xbox One as previous years. What I mean is that within the last gen consoles, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, developers have come out and stated that due to the Xbox One's limitations, and we've even seen this, that they have had to hold back on what they can add to the game as well as how well it can look and how well it can run. Take Assassin's Creed Unity for instance, and Syndicate on the PlayStation 4. For the first time the game released, it looked great. Unity still holds up today against other third-party games as being one of the best looking games running on this generation of console, and AC Syndicate following slowly behind it. Each of these games ran on the base Xbox One and the base PlayStation 4. Limitations of the Xbox One, these games had to be brought down within the resolution. On the Xbox One, these games ran at around 720p 900p, and on the PS4 they ran at 900p 1080p. Now if we go through a list provided by IGN on most if not all third-party games playable on the two consoles, the Xbox One has the most games set at a base resolution of 720p. So when you play the game on a 1080p TV, it upscales it. Same with the 900p on the PlayStation 4. Now if we take a look at a PlayStation 4 game, first party game, we will see that The Last of Us 2, one of the best looking PlayStation 4 games, if not the best looking games come out of last generation, runs great on the PlayStation 4. The lighting, the textures, everything about it looks amazing, and honestly, if you told me this game was a next gen title, I'd believe you. This game was made for the hardware of the PlayStation 4. Better hardware than the Xbox One, and even better than the Xbox One S. Now I know what you're gonna say, but Billy, the Xbox One S plays games in 4K, and okay, yeah, that is true, it can play games in 4K, but of course only if you have a 4K monitor / TV, and even then the games are upscaled to 4K using a checkerboard technique, meaning it's not true 4K. So let's say you have an Xbox One S and you put in The Witcher 3 for instance. The game itself will still play in 900p on the One S, but what you're seeing on your screen is just it being upscaled to 4K, not true 4K gameplay. This is why having the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 be so close in power and specs means a lot more than you think. Yes, you Xbox fanboys can go on all about how the Xbox One has more teraflops and power, and the PlayStation fanboys can go on about how the SSD is capable of doing so much more than the Series X. Both are true, which we have heard from developers themselves. But what this means for third-party games, and specifically Assassin's Creed, is that now we can have true 4K 60 FPS Assassin's Creed games without having to worry so much about them being downgraded for the less powerful consoles. Now of course Valhalla is coming out on the base Xbox One and PlayStation 4, so don't expect too much in terms of an upgrade this year. But in the years to come, when Ubisoft fully transition to making games solely for the next gen consoles, then expect some amazing things in terms of graphics and hopefully gameplay. My only wish is that Ubisoft stop with the RPG elements in Assassin's Creed games and go back to utilizing the engine and giving us some amazing graphics and storylines like we had in Unity, Origins, Syndicate, Syndicate, and of course Assassin's Creed 2. And fuck it, if Ubisoft feel like properly remaking Assassin's Creed 1 in the same vein as how first Battlefield game has been completely redone, then the next gen consoles are the place for it, and please do not give us the shit like the Prince of Persia remaster. That just looks horrendous, and that is just wrong. Now I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you haven't, click the like button down below, and of course remember to subscribe for the latest and greatest Assassin's Creed videos. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.